I go to acting class.
You do?
Yeah, I'm looking to become something great. Like, I mean, I don't know that James Joyce can write Ulysses like without working super hard. And you're right. Like, as an actor, you don't get to just sit down and write. So what can you do? Like, I need to put in hours. Like, I need to actually, if you want to become a bodybuilder, like, you have to spend hours in the gym training. And I can go to the studio and, let's say in the 70s, and Al Pacino can be there, and like some dude straight out of drama school can be there, and we can both work on scenes together, and we can both sort of exercise muscles that we feel are weak in us. But I think it's always having that bar, that something that Ellen Burstyn called like the divine dissatisfaction of the artist, right? Which is that you always think every day, you're like, oh yeah, that was pretty good. But you're always like, I wonder if I could do that. It's not about judging people on levels in that way. It's more like, because it isn't sport, it's artistry, which means that like it's different than sport. Art has so much richness beyond sport. It's not a simple competitive thing of like physical strength or whatever. It's like you actually bring something as a human being that's so unique, and the energies that you bring could be something where I could learn something as well.
And did you actually get acting training formally in school or with a teacher?
I did 4 years of acting school, which I think was smart to do. I put a lot of value in it because it taught me technique. You kind of got to learn this like you're a plumber. It is, to a certain extent, a deeply personal thing, an experience. Sitting there doing a monologue or scene with someone and kind of mumbling, and I had a lot of emotion going on and blah, blah, blah. And a scene ended, and he was like, that was great. I don't doubt you were feeling all that, and that was great. But your job is to fucking communicate that to everyone else. And I thought, like, oh yeah, there's a technique involved where if I'm speaking to you back there, then it has to go to you wherever the camera is. And it was an aha moment where I was like, oh, yeah, this is not just feeling stuff. This isn't, it's not therapy. Personal experiences or, things that in scenes where you'd have to act certain ways, you inevitably use a kind of a recall, your own experiences in life to, sort of put it through that aperture to give it to everyone else. It actually kind of goes back to technique, which I think is another good reason to go to train. There's techniques you can develop, because it's not, we'd all love to believe that every time you have to do an emotional scene, some people, by the way, have complete access to that and can be sitting here talking to you and all of a sudden just like they can turn on one eye. I'm not that way. Like I kind of have to find the zone or whatever. But again, it was technique, so it's training that I think helps you do that. When you're doing 23 or 24 episodes a year of a drama, it's a crushing schedule. Dramas in and of them, hour-long drama is a hard schedule. But when you're doing 24, the writers inevitably get backed up, and they can't produce quality at that scale, for an extended period of time. And we've all seen shows, you think like, oh, this is a great first season, and then if it's that sort of 24-hour network stuff. And then eventually the writers will fall into bad habits, and you start to see the patterns of the writers and their speech patterns, and you're going to go like, oh, that's not great. And then and so that inevitably trickles down on the actors. And you're also working at such a pace and you're so exhausted that you're just going like, oh, I'll just do that thing I do where I kind of cock my head. I knew every time I got a script that so much blood had been spilt on it that I wasn't going to be disappointed, or I wasn't going to try and change anything. And also the arc of my character was so zigzag. I was never allowed to sort of put it in neutral or coast, or because if I did, I would just I'd fail his scripts, and that was true for everyone. Every character had a really interesting arc, so he never allowed us to get comfortable. The writing just demanded that everyone kind of keep digging deeper. I really was always looking at the overall piece. I think I think sometimes actors, or at least things that I've written, I can see that actors will try and bring the material to them, and to their bag of tricks, and go like, what, it'd be kind of more like this, and this is more interesting. And actors should internalize and process some of the stuff that they do. That's part of your job, but sometimes you can just constantly be bringing the material. So I was always trying to go towards the material as opposed to bringing it into what I wanted to do. Because the material is so heavy, it became very cathartic. Like, so you'd kind of leave, if you have a big heavy scene and you get it out of the way, you'd kind of leave feeling, or at least I would, like kind of happier, like, whew, glad that's out of the way. And then I'd want to go and have fun and laugh and goof around, so I think there's a lot of people that think like, like I should be doing this, and this is, I've always wanted to do, it's those people that like, oh, you want to be, on the side of a bus. You don't want to be an actor. You want to be well known. You don't want to be an actor. And so the people that I've respect the most, friends of mine, some not friends of mine, are the ones who I think just always look for good material and always try and push themselves a little further than they're comfortable. I think comfort is death. Like for anyone, whether you're a writer, director, anyone. It's like you've seen it. You can see it with a lot of people. Where they sort of rest on previous work, and I don't think that's a good career plan.
I think if I'm really honest, that's a kind of very secure place to work from, because you can hide behind a lot of your own characters' wants and wishes, and you can express them with the confidence of a person who really believes them. Whereas when you're doing something that all of that is stripped away, it's a little exposing, can make you sort of vulnerable to, the cracks in your talent. I remember did you ever see that thing Bryan Cranston did where he mentioned his audition sort of, not technique, but the reframing he did in his mind of actually taking that opportunity to have 10 minutes. If that's the only acting you get to do for the day, that is really something, and you ought to approach it as your job for the day. You have those early experiences where you have your childhood fantasy that something's just going to happen and it will be great and you'll have everything that you dreamed of, and then slowly as you go along you have one thing that seems like it's going to be that, and then you don't work again for 2 years. That happened to me many times, and you sort of think, I don't know what it's going to take, and your job does become going into these rooms and doing these auditions, whether you get them or not. And I loved the idea of changing your perspective about it, that it doesn't become this irritating time suck, but it actually becomes an opportunity for you to go in and make your choices in the scene and present them proudly, and to spend 10 minutes in a room. And it's really hard because sometimes people are eating sandwiches and they don't seem that really interested in you being in there, but it's up to you to do what you want to do in that room. It's not up to you to value or devalue what they're doing, or have it affect your perception of yourself.
When you have an audition and you connect with it, and it's good when you learn it really quickly, because you're like, someone who's a performer has written this, or someone who understands that. I knew the lines inside out so well, and I knew what my choices were. I'd made bold choices, and it was a slightly heightened world anyway, and I was sort of unapologetic in what that was. And so I think the times when it's not good, I don't feel it, and I can sort of sense that it hasn't got that same connection, I think is when I haven't just sort of learned it back to front, learn my choices, learn my thought process is what it is. And also, when you just get a nice, you're acting opposite somebody who like gives a shit, your character would sort of drive the scene. He would sit with whoever that was and talk about choices. He would talk about like history of what that character's just done, where they were before, and like ideas about where they might be going somewhere in the future. And I don't know if you guys have ever done this in rehearsals, where you choose not to hear what the other actor's process is in how they are approaching their character, because in the same way that I don't know how you guys got here today, I don't know if you'd had an argument beforehand, I don't know that, but if I am acting that, there's somewhere perhaps in the performance that I am aware of that, or maybe a subconscious thing. The same goes for the future of what these characters were doing. I really liked that we weren't there mapping that out in some way, subconsciously or not.
Tell me about De Niro, though. You use him the way John Ford used John Wayne.
He introduced me to Bobby.
Is that right?
He introduced me to De Niro.
What does he offer, director?
Well, the versatility and imagination, and tons of choices, which is what you want. You don't want to go there in the morning and say, okay, we're doing this line, and we're doing this scene, and let's go from here, and we'll get the master, and we get the close-up, and because it gets very boring. Then you don't want to get up anymore and go, to get anything to get up that early in the morning for.
What did you mean by tons of choices? I mean, he can do the scene 8 times in 8 different ways.
This means something over here. I mean, I could do this if you want, or I had an idea. I had another idea. Let me just try it. I won't even tell you what it is. And great. When he says that, then I shoot. Something explosive happens.
And now, what is so successful? First of all, the trouble with some of the objects which are difficult is that we run out of inner objects under non-crisis circumstances to keep our attention going while we get dressed, button. What you gain from this exercise and how to work on it, 3/4 of the work on the Who Am I and her faith in historic time and place has been conquered. Each one of the exercises you can do 10 times or more. Which is why people, when they study with me in the beginning, after two or 4 terms, they're still on the 2nd or 3rd exercise, because I don't expect you to race through them. So by the time you get to this exercise, you've been a long time doing the others. Once you've exhausted this, then there's a wonderful way of combining them. any kind of character that gives you trouble in terms of faith. And just combining X's, you can see they all easily combine. Geraldine Page studied with me, God knows, all in all about 6 years. The last few times she came back in the last few years, she only did object exercises. And I said, why? She said, when I did them, I didn't know how valuable they are. She said, it gives me a chance to work on all the staggered condition. We put being in a hurry while I'm hot with a headache and, and I really stagger conditions. That's a very useful exercise.
First of all, I would advise you immediately to take yourself out of any book. I may refer to myself as a little example. Take yourself away. Look to that moment. Look at the men that he's dealing with. He's dealing with Nietzsche, darling, not with some goddamn foolish woman there that's telling you got to be programmed. He's dealing with people like that. He's dealing like people with Swedenborg. He's dealing with people that understand him and their problems that are your problem. These are the big people that are understanding it. I don't level with them. Don't level with these people. See what they have to say. For Christ's sakes, don't bring everybody down to our level. You have been abandoned mostly. Absolutely abandoned in every way. Now we're trying to get some point of view so you can act the man someday. You can act the woman who's in conflict. And there's no way to make you act except pitsy-caca business. I don't like this and I don't like it. You gotta stop it. We are with the great men. Mr. O'Neill said, I want everything of Nietzsche, Strindberg published. I will pay for everything. Mr. Shaw did that, and Mr. O'Neill gave him the Nobel Prize. Now all these people are the playwrights you're going to deal with. We're not going to deal with the programmed lady. Get yourself away. Let us deal with you as material.
I love first reading a play and when I love seeing a cover letter or an email that says, and look at the part of blah, 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 because I can't wait to get to it. There are very few parts that I've ever read that I wouldn't die to play. Not only do I look at the part that I would play, selfishly, or myopically, but I like to make a choice based on the people that are doing it. I loved working with Austin the last time around because of the time that he takes at the beginning, letting people feel it out for themselves, and then after a while, then the actor starts craving more suggestions. Tell me things I haven't thought of. Show me what you liked and didn't like of the colors I threw up there. I love being an actor. I just got an OB a few weeks ago, and I realized it was exactly to the month 25 years since I had a previous OB for Balm and Gilead. That meant so much to me because it floored me that 25 years had gone by and I still love what I'm doing. Love it. I said if I could go back in time 25 years ago at this Balm and Gilead acceptance and know that for the next, it gets me emotional, for the next 25 years I'll be able to do the same stuff. It's so lucky. I'm so lucky that my passion for it hasn't diminished because it's something that I count on in my life.
But there are types I will not work with. If I find out that someone is that way, I won't work with them. Someone who is totally unprofessional, by that I mean temperamental, who runs in slamming the door screaming, who is late, who has no feeling for the other performers. I guess you would call it totally unprofessional, who feels that what they're doing is the most important thing in the world, and all it is show business, and it's a hoot to be in show business. Too many people take it seriously. I used to, and it's not worth it. It is fun, and it is let's pretend. Sometimes we lose the feeling of that, and we don't make it as much fun as it is. It is all just fake and phony. We start pretending when we're kids. Playing dolls, going out and pretend, hey, let's pretend I'm so-and-so and you're this, and acting out movies. It's child's play. I guess because all the big mucky mucks in the suits have all the money, then it becomes very serious. But as a performer, I think we should just plunge in and have fun and experiment. If you're a celebrity, that does feed the ego, so they are in a very dangerous profession for someone with that kind of a temperament. Unfortunately, when you're a stinker and you're in show business and you're, say, a star, that's awful, because it is a total ego-feeding business, but it can sure be taken away as quickly as you got it.